Okay, so we'll get started. I'm also not like a PowerPoint wizard or ninja or anything. I got a little bit overwhelmed with all the different like transitions and things like that. So I was like, yeah, I did take a course one time that was called like Death by PowerPoint, and it was I don't remember anything about it. So you guys are about to die by PowerPoint probably. So a couple things. I'm going to talk about us a little bit. As you can see, we got some photos here. These are our coaches down here at the bottom, excluding me and Sarah. We got Bree, Delia, Crystal, Rebecca, Cece, and Ron. I don't know what these pictures are from. This looks like it might be from a Saturday workout, maybe Emory or something. Yeah. And then that Officer Down workout there. Okay, yeah, because I can see some other gyms represented there. Cool. So I started out in law enforcement here in Alachua County. I did that for about 14 years. And sometime in that process, I discovered CrossFit as just a way to train. And I fell in love with it. It was amazing. It's something that made a lot of sense. Hopefully we'll get into some of that and you can kind of like see why like law enforcement, military, firefighters really gravitated toward this methodology. And it's just it's a very high impact and uh, high sort of like broad fitness that covers a lot of bases. So it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. A lot of us were doing it at the gym at the sheriff's office, and some of the staff noticed what we were doing, and they started getting involved, and then they started enjoying it, and then they wanted to send a couple of us to go get certifications, CrossFit certifications. So the sheriff's office actually paid for my CrossFit level 1. Went there, fell in love with it again, and then started coaching a little bit at the police academy. The police academy started adapting some of the training methodology for new recruits. So we started training there, and I was like, man, this is a lot of fun. I really want to get into this. And then around 2016, I told Sarah I was getting a little burned out at the sheriff's office. I either need to change my position or I need to pursue this CrossFit thing. And Sarah was like, get out of law enforcement and pursue it. So we did it and opened up at our barn. You can see up there in the corner. We had a little 600 square foot barn. There's Janine right there. And we still have those pink plates. They're just not that color anymore. So yeah, we started there. We were there for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and then started looking for commercial space, and then came out here, found the unit over there, number 8, which is basically a quarter of this building. And then we were at that building for about another year and a half, and then the landlord noticed that we were growing and offered the larger space, which was this unit. It was basically the same unit, just times 2. So then we moved over to this one, and so here we are at this location. Yeah, probably maybe another year and a half. We expanded into this side and added like the open gym area, added this room, the conference room, and a couple offices. We have Dr. Farmer in here with Spectrum, and so lots of cool things happening. We love this space. We love this area. I love how it's kind of tucked away back in the corner. Feel like we can run around in the parking lot and do crazy things and not have to be bothered with the real society out there. So get into the talk. Basically what I want to sort of get into is this whole thing called CrossFit, the methodology, particularly some of the bits and points that you would get from like a level 1, or you could find it in the level 1 manual, which is free online. And just kind of also spend most of the time talking about how we implement it here, to kind of differentiate maybe where, if you have experience with CrossFit in other places. Does anyone have any idea what CrossFit is? Like, just what do you think it is, or what? Yeah, maybe not the level 1 answer. Okay. Bree, you got a functional fitness. All right, I like that.
Constantly varied. Before I started CrossFit, I just viewed it as like cross training.
Cross training, like Yeah, so you're mixing modalities, right? Yeah, like there's cardio elements and then there's something else. Oh, yeah, weights. Yeah. Yeah. Right, right. All wrapped up in one. I love it. Um, I did a Google. So according to Google, this was like, I guess Google now has this like Gemini thing that answers all your questions now. So high intensity fitness regime. Yeah. That combines constantly varied functional movements. That's what you guys said. Squatting, lifting, gymnastics with metabolic conditioning. That's what Andrew was talking about over there. Focus on building overall fitness. Like Janine was saying, strength, agility, scalable workouts, supportive community-driven environment. I think that is one of the bigger things that CrossFit hits on is the community. You're not kind of coming into the gym and siloing yourself or putting your headphones on and running through the things and doing that for about 3 or 4 months and then getting you just dreadly bored of it and trying to find something else to do, right? So constantly varied functional movements, high intensity. Those are our big bullet points. And so I just kind of want to break into each one of those things. So like we talked about constantly varied. One of the things that I think miscommunicates is random. And that's not what we're not trying to just be random. We'll talk a little bit about CrossFit's models, and one of them is this hopper model, kind of like a bingo hopper, right? Where you just kind of like throw in a bunch of movements and whatever pops out, you just do it. Like that's not the idea with constantly varied. The idea with constantly varied is trying to basically create the correct kind of fitness adaptations. So we don't want to sort of be stuck in one sort of area. And then functional movements, that has to be defined, right? I think defining these things can be helpful. So in the sort of CrossFit level 1, functional movements are universal motor recruitment patterns that are performed in a wave of contraction from core to extremity. Yeah. So functional movements are universal motor recruitment patterns that are performed in a wave of contraction from core to extremity. So maybe somewhere from your base of support, your midline, your hips, and then out towards the sleeves. And so like a lot of the thing we talk about with functional movements is things that you would see in nature, right? Like picking things up off the ground, putting things up high, stuff like that. The one of the biggest, I think, elements of a functional movement is its ability to move a large load over a long distance quickly, right? So like you think about things like a snatch, right? Someone mentioned that. Like you move a barbell from the ground all the way to overhead really, really quick. Think about the range of motion that is and the speed in which that moves as opposed to like a bicep curl, right? Like so like the speed in which you would move that thing, its ability to produce that amount of force is sort of like how we would look at more functional movements like that. And then high intensity. That's sort of the kicker, I think, with a lot of CrossFit stuff, high intensity. CrossFit, I think, does a really good job of defining intensity. Like I remember when I went to my level 1, talked about intensity a little bit. And one of the examples they gave was go to like any Globo gym and you see like a guy working on the preacher curl machine, right? That thing where you like bend over and like he's red in the face and he's making a whole lot of noise. And then you think to yourself, man, that's intense, right? Maybe, right? But that's not kind of how we define intensity. Intensity, we define strictly as power. It's force times distance divided by time, right? So it's measurable. You can take things like how quickly you move a barbell, how quickly you run down the floor and back, put in all of the different variables, the weight you moved, how much body weight you have, all of those things, put it into an equation and figure out exactly how much horsepower you're generating on a consistent or average basis. And then we basically plot that on a graph and go, what was the intensity of that workout? And so CrossFit uses power as its sort of defining feature of high intensity. So one of the things that I think CrossFit does is it kind of puts all that into these little elements and creates sort of a training program where your goal is training for the unknown and the unknowable, right? Like, what does life have to offer? What do you need to be able to accomplish in life? Whether you're law enforcement, firefighter, military, downrange, whether you're a soccer mom, like, what are you going to encounter in the real world? I don't know. Right? So we need a training program that can help, prepare us for that. So the CrossFit idea is prepare for the unknown and the unknowable, right? So that's why you get these little elements in there. So what's the outcome when we train with CrossFit? It's pretty simple. Fitness. Yeah, fitness. This is another thing that needs definition, right? What is fitness? That was one of CrossFit's sort of beginner sort of title articles way back in like 2000, 2001. Greg Glassman put out this article, What is Fitness? He used a lot of examples. He talked about different athletes. Like, you think about, I don't know, Michael Jordan or a decathlon athlete or Lance Armstrong. Like, are these guys and gals, are they fit? Well, what is fitness? What is that?
So the overall physically fit, or I'm trying to think what I'm.
Yeah, and that's the issue, right? Every definition uses the term, like a state of fit.
Lance Armstrong is specifically fit for one particular quadrant of
Yeah.
exercise.
Are you evaluating like cardiovascular fitness?
Exactly.
I would say most of the time you expect people to have a good cardiovascular fitness level when you say they're fit.
Yeah, so like their ability to turn oxygen into energy, right? Yeah, like what's their respiratory, their VO2 max or whatever, right? Like, but what about strength? What about application of, like, if you're a really strong, what if you can lift a car? Is that fit? Is that fitness? Right, like strong men and strong women, are they fit?
Yeah, but they can't run.
Right, yeah. So it sort of creates this, like, like, we want fitness. How do we define it in order to get it, right? We want to have sort of a goal. So CrossFit basically created this really broad definition: increased work capacity across broad times and modal domains. So we'll talk a little bit about graphs and get a little nerdy, but the goal is, what can you do, right? Like, what are you capable of doing? And like, to cover that, like, CrossFit sort of creates some models to kind of like wrap your head around this stuff. One of them is the 10 general physical skills. So basically, I think somebody mentioned, like, what are you measuring, right? So you got endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, speed, power, coordination, agility, balance, accuracy. Like, where are you good? Like, do you have capacity in all 10 of those things, right? So CrossFit's sort of broad definition of fitness would include, like, I'm developing capacity in all 10 of those areas, right? And the difference between those two circles, you have endurance, stamina, strength, and flexibility. Those are kind of like organic things. Like, you train them and your muscles get bigger. You get better at, producing oxygen or using oxygen. Your stamina, your muscles are able to do more work. You get stronger, you get more flexible, right? You train to get those things. And then you got on this side, coordination, agility, balance, accuracy. Those are more like neurological things. Like, you have to practice those things. Like, anybody that's ever tried to do a double under, like, understands you don't You have to practice to get the coordination of some of these things. Agility, balance, accuracy, right? And then power and speed are in the middle because you need both, right? You need the organic sort of adaptations and you need the neurological adaptations in order to get faster and then in order to get more power. Again, like we defined power, force times distance divided by time. So 10 general physical skills. CrossFit would say if you are deficient in any one of these, it's sort of like mission critical. It's mission failure, right? Like that's something you should train and work on, right? There's a gap in your fitness if there's something missing there. And then we talked a little bit about the hopper. I like the hopper model because I like to think about it in terms of like an athlete that is generally good at whatever comes out of the hopper. We could call them a fit person, right? Like no matter what comes out of the hopper, if they're like top 5, top 10 even, like we can consider them fit. Doesn't matter what it is. Like run a mile, run a 10K, lift your body weight 20 times, right? I mean, whatever it is, whatever comes out of the hopper, like if you're an athlete that does generally well at all of those things, then we can say you're generally fit. I also like the hopper model in terms of like how you should train as well, because I want you guys to think, just imagine for me, a little thought experiment, throw every single exercise, movement, or workout into this hopper in your mind, all right? And then I'm gonna turn it. Whatever comes out, that's what we're gonna go out into the gym and do right now, all right? Think about it, imagine it, all right? What's the thing you don't wanna see come out of the hopper? Right?
The bike.
The thought experiment is that's what you should train the most at, right? That's what you should go after. And so I like the hopper model for that idea. Like go after your weaknesses. Just push through. And then this is one of my favorite ones. I like this drawing, so I used it. CrossFit calls this the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. So basically, I'm going to expand it a little bit into this next one. Ooh, look at that. Fun. So CrossFit talks about the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum in terms of like thinking about like putting different markers on this scale, right? All the way from sickness to wellness to fitness. So you can put different markers like body fat percentage. Like if you put it right there, you're in between sick and well, right? Or if you put it right there, you're in between wellness, sick, bone density, right? There's some kind of plot in there that's in between that graph, right? Triglycerides, I don't even know. HDL, cholesterol stuff. I don't know. I don't know numbers, right? But you can plot it on there, right? Your hemoglobin. I don't know. Blood. You guys get blood work done, right? You see all these numbers and all these things. They can be plot on this graph, right? Anywhere between sickness, wellness, and fitness. Muscle mass, right? What about your Fran time? Right? You guys know Fran, 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups. 21 thrusters, 21 pull-ups, 15 thrusters, 15 pull-ups, 9 thrusters, 9 pull-ups. Time. How fast can you get that done? Right? Plot that on here. The point is that what CrossFit is saying is that all of those measurements, like your strength, your muscle mass, your triglycerides, your Fran times, your deadlift, your mile times, they're all measurements of the same thing. Sickness, wellness, fitness. Wherever you land on that graph, right, with all those different things, pushing all of this, pushing towards this, improves all of those things, right? Your HDL gets better, your body fat percentage gets better, your bone density gets better, you get stronger, you get faster. They're all measurements of the same thing. And then one of the wonderful things about this sort of continuum visually to think about, when you start moving past wellness towards fitness, one of the things that we're doing is we're creating a hedge of protection against sickness, right? So like say you're super fit, like your Fran time is like 3 minutes, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, like Ron's, right? Say you let that go a little bit. You let your fitness go a little bit. You spend some time, I don't know, building a house, and you're not in the gym as much, right? Before I get to sickness, what has to happen? I have to go to wellness first, right? I've created that sort of little bit of a hedge of protection against some of these like pathological issues that we're plagued with in our current like medical thing, right? So we're trying to build this sort of hedge of protection. And CrossFit's one of CrossFit's models is that like yeah, look at your blood work and look at improving all these things, but your fitness, right? Improving your work capacity across broad times and modal domains is measuring the same kind of stuff, right? And we're improving all that same kind of stuff. And so we'll get back to this a little bit later on, but the point is what we're trying to do is create this sort of paradigm where you learn how to train, right? Where you learn how to practice, where you learn how to become an athlete, right? And this is where I think it's going to get a little nerdy, and I'm just going to quickly put some of these up here, hopefully. So you got energy systems, right? Phosphagen, glycolytic, oxidative. These first two are like anaerobic. Oxidative is like aerobic. So like you've got different time domains, 30 to 90 seconds. What can you do in that amount of time? A little bit more power output, maybe. Oxidative, like you're pushing past 2 or 3 minutes, right? What are you doing with that? What's your I like this little saying here. We want to run faster than a lifter, lift more than a runner, right? The goal is this is our work capacity. We talked about that, right? Across broad times and modal domains. You look at your time domains here. We got 0 to 5 seconds. Like how much power can you produce in that amount of time? Graph it, put some X's. What about at 25 minutes, 30 minutes? Graph it, right? Put some X's there on the curve. Create this little like line of like the averages. Everything under that is your work capacity. That's your fitness, right? So the bigger this curve gets, the more area you have under it, the more fit you are, right? Measurable, repeatable. We can see this kind of stuff. And then if we were to add an axis to that, like add like a y-axis or a z-axis coming out this way to represent your age, right? Like this is going to probably get a little bit like a blanket. It's going to start degrading a little bit and decreasing. But the bigger we can keep that, right? Then we're talking about something much bigger than just fitness. We're talking about vitality. We're talking about health, longevity, right? Like these are some of the things that I think resonate more with me now that I'm getting older, right? I'm not necessarily thinking about blasting my Fran time anymore. I'm thinking about like how much can I do with my grandkids? Like I want to be able to play and have fun and do things like that. Yeah.
I just wanted to comment about that too because I have not personally, but indirectly experienced this where they commenting on that like wellness, sickness, continuum and stuff like that is like being physically fit, like literally makes you harder to kill. If you get cancer, autoimmune diseases. When I first started here, I had a powerlifting coach that I did online training with, worked with for a couple years, and he developed this incredibly terrible autoimmune disease and had to go through chemotherapy. And he was literally whittled down to a ghost of a man. And he survived because he trained so hard and built up his physical fitness so well. And he's here today with his children because he was in incredible shape before he went through that. If he had been a normal Joe Schmo off the street that was overweight and had a bad heart, etc., he would not be here. So
and that's
literally makes you harder to kill.
And I love that. And going back to like when I was in law enforcement, right? There's the physical implications of that. Like I can like lift things, I can run fast, I can fight you, like I'm powerful, but then also like I can fight off in diseases, right? Like my immune system is stronger, right? Like my resilience, my joints, my just ability to that like bounce back, that like sympathetic, parasympathetic, all of those different like things are improving on that continuum. And so that's exactly what we're talking about, that like just broad blanket of health and wellness. One of the things that I'm hearing now in some of the research in the podcast, they're talking about like what do we need for vitality? And the common variabilities or variables that I'm seeing are like strength and be strong, like have muscles, have bones, right? Don't be frail and breakable. Like, you see all these like, things about like, how do I stay like young, or how do I stay, free to move around and out of nursing homes? Well, what puts you in a nursing home? Frailty. Yeah, you can't sit down anymore. You can't lift things. You're not independent. You don't have those freedoms. Yes.
And then this, I also want to comment from like the orthopedic perspective. The stronger you are, the stronger your heart is, the stronger your muscles. Your body responds to loads. The more you're loading your body, the stronger it is. So then, if you are to fall, you have stronger bones. You have
That's right.
stronger muscles.
Yep.
You are harder to injure because you have more of that stabilizing system. The muscles, your ligaments get stronger, your
Yeah.
tendons get stronger, your bones get stronger. Literally everything gets stronger when you are lifting and exercising. And so then if you, like I said, if you do fall, you don't break things.
Right.
You might get bruised and banged up, and worst case, maybe strain something,
That's right.
but you're not going to be hospitalized.
Yeah.
Less likely, at least, obviously, if you get hit by a
No,
car.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You're gonna get hurt probably if you're an active person. But how resilient? Like, how resilient are you? Can you bounce back? Do you have like like the willingness to work through to kind of get better? Do you have training experience, athletic experience? How can I apply some of this methodology to my physical therapy when I'm trying to get back? Like, so like just to kind of get back into like what we're actually trying to accomplish. There's this guy called Dr. Steven Sealer or something like that. He did a lot of good research, I think, on the human energy. Like, how do humans improve? Like, we can look at like how do rockets do things and how do lawnmowers and engines. What about humans? And so, like, he did some things on like adaptations and things like that. And basically, I don't want to get super crazy into it, but like a lot of his research showed that like some of the stuff that we already know, I think intuitively, high intensity interval training, strength training, right? The problem with a lot of like the fitness routines out there is they look hard, right? But when you actually measure and look at what's actually being produced, like long, slow, grindy, low power stuff, the adaptations aren't there. Like the research is just saying that the physiological adaptations, like the neurological stuff that we want, the organic stuff that we want, it's just aren't there. It's not there. I don't want to like poop on anybody's training program, but if you're always doing like long, slow, grindy stuff, right, and you like that, there's a reason you like that, is because what you're adapting to is just your body being efficient at moving through that, not because it's creating good neurological adaptations or strength adaptations. In fact, the research might be even showing that you're losing strength. You're losing some of your power by just doing those long, slow, grindy things, especially as we age. Like our bodies start to change and we start to become more physiological adapted to things like longer, slow, grindy things. And so like if we're always staying in that area, we're not growing and we're not adapting. So like what do we have to do? We have to do hard things. I mean that's the meat and potatoes of this. One of the things we talked about is this concept of people's needs differ by degree, not kind. And this was a quote from Greg Glassman a long time ago. I like the example he used about deadlifting, right? Everybody should deadlift. Maybe it's a matter of degree, right? Like my mom might deadlift a PVC pipe or an empty bar or something very, very light, but she should still know how to pick things up off the ground, right? 19, 20-year-old Delia Moises, she's going to deadlift 400 pounds, right? She deadlifts more than me, right? So people's needs differ by degree, not kind. She still needs to deadlift. She needs to train that strength, that powerful movement, but it's a degree thing, right? So like we all need this. That's kind of the point. We just need to know how to find where we are in that spectrum, right? Where are we at with the degree? So essentially, like, CrossFit says that it's a core strength and conditioning program. So I like this definition because it has two components to it. We think of core strength. What do we immediately think of? Yeah, your core, like your abs and your back, and like just your stability, your base, like the connector between your lower half and your upper half, right? We have to have that good, strong core strength and stability. It almost becomes sort of like fitness buzzwords, like core strength, you know. So CrossFit kind of talks about that for sure in how we produce force from core to extremity, right? We have to have that strong base of our core, and we have to create that energy system. Think about like a rower, a rowing machine. You want to use the bigger movers first, big leg drive, big hip drive, and then finally pull with your arms and back, right? So creating this kind of wave, big to little, right? But then also core strength and conditioning in terms of like, you think of like core curriculum, like when you're thinking about like what we're learning. Like we need to learn the basics. Like we need to learn how our bodies move, the line of action of our hips. We need to learn how to apply the sort of physical movers of our body and how to apply them on the floor when it's time to pick something up or when it's time to swing around. We need to have sort of this sort of understanding. We need some coaching, right, on how to move our bodies well. Body awareness. And so like the goal of CrossFit is to not move us towards these fringes, right? Like you know, I'm gonna run a marathon, so I'm gonna train all the marathon stuff and just get my cardiorespiratory endurance up, or I'm gonna just do powerlifting and I'm gonna get really really strong and lift cars and throw them across the parking lot. Yeah. Or I'm going to um, I'm just going to strictly do yoga this year and I'm going to get really flexible, right? So what CrossFit is trying to do is avoiding pushing into the fringes. And I'll talk about this a little at the end. We can kind of have a little round table discussion. I think CrossFit in general, like the broader thing, is starting to look fringe. Is you see like what's happening with like the CrossFit Games and like the sport of CrossFit. It's starting to look fringe. It's starting to look like those people are wild and crazy. And what we really need to do is wrap our heads around the methodology and then apply the methodology to anything. And you could apply the methodology to the sport of CrossFit, great. Or you could apply the methodology to the sport of high rocks, or apply the CrossFit methodology to the sport of lacrosse, any sport, right? And like those are fringe things that you can work on and train, but CrossFit's goal is creating this sort of really strong core base that you could build anything off of. Yeah.
I think that what you're saying there is like really important because from again like the PT like performance sport perspective, this is exactly what we say that like children need.
Yes.
Children, youth athletic development, long-term athletic development. This is exactly what it's saying. You need all of these buckets of available for you. You need to become an athlete
Yeah.
before you specialize in things.
Yeah.
And that's literally exactly what you're saying.
100%. And I'll show you a hierarchy in just a little bit that talks about what CrossFit has tried to essentially implement in the exercise and fitness world is this idea of core, not core here, but core as in curriculum, like build a core, build a base, right? And so we talk about train like an athlete, right? And so I've heard a lot of people talk about this as I don't want to train like I don't want to be an athlete, right? I just want to be fit, or I want to have and the problem I have with that, this is a quote I'm going to read from the level 1 manual. Athletes experience a protection from the ravages of aging and disease that non-athletes never find. Right? This might be a little bit crazy, this next sentence. You can debate it if you want to. I'm just going to read from what it says. An 80-year-old athlete is stronger than non-athletes in their prime when they're 25 years old. Just think about that. An 80-year-old athlete, stronger, and I can attest a little bit to that because I'm 45, 44, I don't even know. 43, 43. And I feel like I'm in better shape than when I was 18. So I mean, that's kind of like anecdotal, but you can kind of wrap your heads around this. Like athletes have something about them, right? They're if you think that strength is not important, consider that strength loss is what puts people in nursing homes, right? Athletes have a greater bone density, stronger immune systems, less coronary heart disease, reduced cancer risk, fewer strokes, right? Any issues yet? Less depression,
Say less.
right?
I'm in.
Exactly, right? And so like what is an athlete? Like I pulled up Webster's terms. An athlete is a person who is trained or skilled in exercise, sports, or games requiring physical strength, agility, or stamina. Okay. CrossFit tightens it up a little bit. An athlete is a person who is trained or skilled in strength, power, balance, and agility, flexibility, and endurance. CrossFit holds fitness, health, and athleticism as strongly overlapping constructs. For most purposes, they can be seen as equivalent. So, like health and athletic endeavors, same thing, right? We're going back to that continuum, right? Same kind of thing we're talking about. If you don't want to train like an athlete, then according to how we're defining the term, you don't want health, right? You don't want longevity or vitality, which I don't know how to help you if that's right, because that's what we're trying to do. See what's next. Maybe. All right, so how do we get there? So this is one of the tenets of CrossFit: mechanics, consistency, and then intensity. Is something spelled wrong? Sarah made a face.
Consistency. So it's all right.
Consistency.
It's only the second typo.
Oh, that's only the second. Yeah. Consistency. All right. So what is how do we use that? Yeah. Consistency. It's like a mix of like George Costanza and Nancy, the workout with overhead squats and running. Yeah. No, okay, so like we want intensity, right? We talked a little bit about that, like the different waves of adaptation. How do we get there? Power. We want to get there. So mechanics first, consistency, and then intensity. So this is one of the things that I think CrossFit, we lose it a little bit. We lose this idea a little bit because we get wrapped up in the whole idea of intensity and we don't know what happened. We either got hurt or we did too much too soon. And it's because this paradigm or this framework is what is setting us up for intensity. Not just safety, right? But actually how effective our training can be, right? If we learn the mechanics well, right, and then we apply the intensity piece, right? Maybe it's a range of motion thing. We earned or gained more range of motion. Then when we apply that range of motion faster, right? More efficient training. Maybe it's a technique thing. We're learning how to like efficiently move the weight to our shoulders or something, and then we learn that well, and then add the speed, right? So then we're getting more efficient training, right? So it's not just about safety; it's about efficiency, and then in fact, the intensity has a lot more effectiveness if we use that paradigm: mechanics, consistency, and then intensity. This is another quote from the level 1. Intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return on favorable adaptation to exercise. So you look at all the different things that are like creating this adaptation to exercise, basically how are we getting more and more fit? That variable that keeps showing up, intensity. Do hard things. Do hard things. And so that's basically what we have to do to get there. So what we want to use is that measurement of 3 prongs to determine whether or not we have a good program. Is it safe? Is it effective? I keep pushing the button and nothing happens. This is like my PowerPoint thing. My PowerPoint. Is it safe? Is it effective? Is it efficient? Right? And so those are the things that we're looking for. Careful coaching, gradual increases in load, focus on safety. Basically what we're trying to do is help everyone learn how to perform these movements that used to be sort of reserved to like elite athletes or professional, environments, where like if you came from like a sports background or something like that, and you were exposed to some of this kind of coaching. CrossFit's aim is to bring that to everyone, bring these ideas to everyone, and do it in a safe and effective way, right? This is there a spelling with this one? These are some hard words. Efficacy and efficiency. Those were hard words to spell. I had a lot of red underlines in order to get that right. But that's what we want to look at when we're measuring our program, whether it's CrossFit or whether it's something else. Do we have all 3? Chuck Carswell was my flow master when I did CrossFit level 1, and he talks about this example of like, imagine like a pull-up program, right? I'm going to enroll you guys in a pull-up program. In 50 days, I'm going to get you guys to do 50 pull-ups, right? Problem is, 6 of you are going to die. Right? So it's not safe, right? What if I do 50 pull-ups in 500 days? Maybe. Is that the most efficient way? Maybe. I don't know. The point is like we can look at a program and we can look at it in terms of like how safe is it, how efficient is it, and how efficacious is that program in getting me those things, right? And so that sort of leads into the 100 words that Greg Glassman put together. And so like putting together like a fitness program, like what would that look like? Try to like boil it down into 100 words. And he said, eat meat and veggies, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Oof. Keep intake levels that will support exercise but not body fat. We'll talk about that in a minute. Practice and train major lifts, deadlift, clean, squat, press, clean and jerk, snatch. Similarly, some tough words in this program. Master the basics of gymnastics, pull-ups, dips, rope climbs, push-ups, sit-ups, presses to handstands, pirouettes, flips, splits, holds. All right? So we got gymnastics in there. Bike, run, swim, row, etc., hard and fast. So do some cardio. 5 or 6 days per week. Mix these elements in as many combinations and patterns as creativity will allow. Routine is the enemy. Keep workouts short and intense. Regularly learn and play new sports. Rollerblading. Love that. So let's break this down a little bit, and this will help get us into like what we do here at Risen. So we were talking a little bit about this hierarchy, right? Andrea talked a little bit about this. A lot of like, think about a lot of youth sports and a lot of kids growing up into like doing sports and fitness and programs. They start up here, right? And then they get 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, and they want to learn how to move. Right? I played soccer all my life. I broke every bone in my body. How do I become fit? Well, let's start down here. Right? And so there's this hierarchy of athletic development that CrossFit sort of says, like, so let's start with nutrition, eat meat and veggies, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Boom. Right? I know, Janine, I know. That's what I try to say. Simple, but not easy. That's right. Yeah. And then we got metabolic conditioning. Like, what does that mean? I just define that as fitness. Yeah, cardiovascular fitness. Then we got gymnastics, the fun stuff. Like you can define that even simply as like just you moving your body in space. Just move your body in space, like no external loads. Body awareness. Yeah. And then you got weightlifting and throwing. That's the fun stuff. Yeah. And then you got sport. Right? What can you do? Like I like this. I like to change this last one to like the best you. Like the best you. And like I'm a Christian, so I like to think about it as like glorifying God with everything I have. Like everything. Right? And that's the top, that's the tip of the spear. Right? And so CrossFit talks about this that like we don't deliberately set this up. Like nature sets this up. Like this is something that nature has sort of built. If you have a deficiency at any one of these, like everything above it is going to suffer. And like just to sort of give you a simple sort of like land the plane kind of mechanics, consistency, intensity thing. Think about gymnastics versus weightlifting. If you can't air squat, should you back squat a whole lot of weight? Right? Like, I mean, like you should probably learn what you're doing and then add load. And so that's sort of like the simple sort of like idea behind that. And then I'll talk a little bit about kind of how we program here to kind of get us through this pyramid and get us to that tip of the spear. Any questions on that hierarchy? Because Andrea talked about it, and I think it's a huge thing that like when I learned about this, it really did flip my thinking because I grew up playing youth sports, soccer and martial arts, things like that. But I didn't learn how to squat until I went to CrossFit level 1. No one showed me how to squat. No one showed me that I should send my hips back and down and knees over toes is okay. And like no one explained this stuff to me. It was kick that ball and get it in that thing. Or kick that guy in the face really hard. Right? Were you going to say something back there? I got it from CrossFit. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. So we talk about this. We'll start with nutrition. This is like the biggest, like, you will get in so much trouble when you start talking about nutrition. There's so many things going on in people's heads. Like, and it is a minefield to talk about nutrition, right? And a lot of heads going up and down because you know what I'm talking about. But it really is simple. Like it really is. So let's break it down into those two sentences. Eat meat and veggies, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Second sentence. Keep intake levels that will support exercise, not body fat. All right, so there's two concepts there. Quality, the quality of your food, and the quantity of your food. Yeah, I got fancy. I got fancy. It's changing, I know. Isn't it cool? Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, you're losing color. So both matter, right? Quality and quantity, but how? Right? I don't think the how matters as much as the quality and the quantity. Right? Like, I guess what I mean by how is, yeah, like your implementation of those two concepts. And so like no matter what sort of diet regime or nutrition like dogma you have, these two things matter the most, right? I teach the zone, right? I talk about the zone diet. I'll give you just a quick breakdown. It basically tries to create this balance of macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats. It tries to help you understand how to create that balance and get that balance in every single meal, right? So not just at the end of the day, counting up all your macros, counting up how many carbs you've had, how many proteins you've had, how many fats you've had, and then making sure you're within some sort of like balanced thing. I mean, that's one way to do it. The zone is basically saying we need that at every meal because there's a hormonal implications to every time you consume food, right? And so like if we can manage and maintain a balance or a zone of good sort of hormones, right, then we have some things going for us, right? We have energy on board. We have we feel satisfied. We have alertness and awareness. There's a lot of performance. There's a lot of things that our hormones are doing for us. Very, very powerful things that if we are supporting the good parts of that, right, then we're able to perform at our peak. And on the flip side, our hormones can do a lot of harm to us if we're not allowing those things to be sort of optimized, right? You think about like a diet that produces a lot of insulin, the hormone that is responsible for storing fat. You're going to store a lot of fat, right? If there's an excess of that, and then start creating this, this resistance that leads to, these diseases and stuff that we see all over, right? Essentially, the zone's goal is creating this sort of like hormonal state or hormonal zone that does a really good job at resolving the buzzword that we all know, inflammation, right? Inflammation is like the big buzzword. It's what every single like miracle drug out there is trying to deal with, right? Resolving inflammation. And so the zone basically saying, let's do that with our food, right? Let's create this sort of like really measurable, repeatable, scalable intake that gets us into the zone. The author of the zone, his name is Barry Sears. He jokingly will say, like, when you are eating in the zone, it feels like you can drive through traffic and all the traffic lights turn green for you. It's the allegory is basically like you feel like you're firing on all cylinders, right? You feel like a machine, right? So I talk about the zone. I think it's the easiest way to get there, but nonetheless, the goal, right, is we got to build that base, right? We have to. You can't out train your diet, right? You have to have some sort of like understanding or concept of how you fuel, right, in order to get these benefits. So we have to eat enough to train well, right? I don't even know what.
Not too much.
Right, not too much. I don't think I remember this slide. Feed the lean mass. So like we're talking about like different ways that we're implementing our nutrition. Like we have to eat enough, right? If you're not eating enough, you can't train, right?
So true.
You don't have the calories, you don't have the energy on board, you can't do it. And so like if it's some sort of starvation thing that you're doing, right, then you're not fueling for health. You're doing something else, right? You have to regulate how much you're, because we want to feed that lean mass. We don't want to lose the lean mass, right? We talk about that earlier on, like what happens when you start losing muscle mass.
That's not good.
That's not good, right? Yeah, we're not trying to get these benchmarks that make no sense based on our longevity, vitality, health, and wellness. It should support performance. It should support recovery. It should support health and longevity. If it doesn't check off those boxes, whatever you're doing for your nutrition, you're doing something different, right? And that's where I think this becomes like a minefield, right? Because there's eating disorders, there's like mental issues and health things that are just way beyond my scope. But at the end of the day, like if your nutrition isn't supporting these things, then we're speaking different languages. You want different things. Like the catalyst isn't there. Does that make sense? All right, so getting off of the like nutrition train and trying to like implement these things to get on this hierarchy, talking about how we implement CrossFit methodology here at Risen. So we want to remember that paradigm of safety, efficacy, and efficiency. We want all three of those, right? So if we don't have all three, then it's not worth it, right? We need to train with all three. We need to have all three. And so you look at that triangle. I'm hoping it'll come up again. Boom, there it is. All right. So you look at that triangle, right? That metabolic conditioning triangle. We're trying to improve our fitness. We're trying to improve what we can do, like what is our body capable of. And we were following that paradigm of mechanics, consistency, then intensity, because we know that intensity is that independent variable. It's that thing that produces the most adaptation. How do we get there? We have to scale. Scaling is the way, right? That's one of the things that I try to really emphasize here at Risen. Scaling is not the easy option. Scaling is what you have to do. I mean, there's no debate. That's what you have to do. You have to scale. We use weightlifting. We use gymnastics. We use skills. We use all of those things to help our fitness. But if you don't have the capacity to deadlift 400 pounds, I still want you to deadlift. So what do you have to do? You have to scale it, right? You have to bring the weight down, right? You have to do lighter weight. What if I'm using chest to bar pull-ups to get our metabolic conditioning up and you don't have chest to bar pull-ups? What do? Yes, you scale, you modify. The point is scaling is the path, right? It's not the easy way out. It's not a shortcut. It's the path. It's the way. It is CrossFit. Scaling and modifying is CrossFit. So that's what I do. Like I program for general physical preparedness. I want GPP. I want people that come into the gym, no matter where they are in their fitness journey, whether they're a badass, right? Or whether I've never done fitness before in my life. I want to move the needle, right? And the way that I do that is following this paradigm, right? I'm going to get you really fit. And then guess what happens when you're really fit? Is it easier to learn new skills when you're fit?
Sure.
Is it safer and more efficient to get stronger when you're fit? Right. What if we do it the other way? What if I'm going to get you really, really strong, and then I'm going to get you fit?
That's actually really hard.
It's really, really hard. It can be done, right? It can be done. Most of the time, what happens though? It takes a long time, and what usually happens? There's injuries. Yeah. So your resiliency isn't that great, right? So we have this saying around here: intensity over fill in the blank. Intensity over volume. I'm going to do the most. I'm going to do all the things. Well, is it intense? Probably not. Let's go for intensity first. What about load? Intensity over load. I want to do all the weights. I want to get strong. Intensity first. Because that's the independent variable that makes us fit. Right? And so the more fit we are, then we can work on the skills. Then we can get the skills. Then we can practice and train more efficiently, more effectively. The strength and the skill and the volume are things that we all get wrapped around, right? We get our minds wrapped around these things. I am a victim of it, just like anybody else. I got into CrossFit because of the ring muscle up. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I was like, I'm going to learn that. I don't care if I die. I'm going to learn how to do that, right? And so I got wrapped around learn the skill, right? And it wasn't until I started following Pat Sherwood's programming that I really started to understand intensity. I started scaling all the workouts. And guess what happened? I started to get really fit, really fit. Like it was incredible. Like I'd been doing CrossFit for like 5 or 6 years, started following Sherwood's programming, and I kind of tricked the gym into doing it as well. We were all following it before everyone knew we were following it, and we were getting really fit. And it's because we were scaling. I use an example all the time with scaling is the workout called Grace. Have you guys heard this workout? It's clean and jerks. You're moving a barbell from the ground to the shoulder and then overhead. And the typical weight is 135 pounds for the boys, 95 pounds for the ladies. I think that's right. Is that right? Does that seem right? I'm getting some, yeah. So, and it's 30 reps per time, right? You just 30 reps, 30 clean and jerks. Bah, 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 bah. How fast can you do that, right? And it's a great example of power output too, right? Because it's very measurable. Like I have a weight, I have a distance, and I have a time. Like I can measure very accurately my average horsepower and put it on a graph, and then do it again in 3 months and put it on a graph and see if my work capacity changed. And so I use Grace to demonstrate scalability because it's very easy to understand. If I do Grace at 135 and it takes me 6 minutes, put that on a graph. If I do Grace at 95 pounds and it takes me 1.5 minutes, put that on a graph. One of those has a tremendous amount of power output. I mean, both of them do. But one of them has more. Is it the 135 or the 95? Probably the 95, because I'm moving 30 reps in 1.5 minutes versus 135 reps in 6 minutes. So if I scaled Grace from 135 to 95 and I got the stimulus, which is a workout that's supposed to be under 3 minutes, right? And I go after the stimulus, then essentially what I'm doing is I'm prioritizing intensity over load. And so I'm going faster, I'm producing more horsepower, I'm getting that X mark on the intensity graph, the work capacity graph. And then in 3 months, I do it again and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna add 5 pounds. So now I'm doing 100 pounds. And what's my goal? Keep that same time, right? Yeah, because I know I can cycle 30 reps in 1.5 minutes. Why can't I cycle 30 reps in 1.5 minutes with just 5 pounds more on the bar? So I keep doing that. I keep doing that in 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 12 months. I'm up to 115, 135, and I'm moving Grace at 1 minute, 2 minutes, right? As opposed to doing the Grace at 135 every time as RX with the 135 on the bar, and it takes me 6 minutes this time. Maybe in 3 months, it takes me 5 minutes and 48 seconds. Right. Oh man, I shaved 12 seconds off of my time. How long is it going to take me to get into the stimulus? Very, very long time. And then what are the other implications of that? Moving a heavier weight? Like what could happen? You get hurt. What about the mechanics of the movement? Do they start to degrade? Yeah, absolutely. Am I getting good practice in the movement? Am I learning the skill any better or worse? Right. So like I love that example because I think it helps wrap our heads around the idea that intensity makes a difference. It gives me all those 3 things. Right? The problem is ego. Right? Ego has to stay outside. It just has to. It cannot come into the gym and it cannot be an effective helper. I like to say that ego is not your amigo. Right? It can't help you out. So the way I program tries to elicit those kind of things, right? I go after consistency, right? I want you to be able to come to the gym and train every single day, right? I don't want you to feel like you come to the gym on Monday and you get hit by a truck and you can't come back to the gym until Friday, right? I want you to feel like you can train and push and work out and be consistent, right? And so like the programming that I write aims to get you there. I don't want you to overtrain. I don't want your ego to get in the way. I don't want you to go after the heavier loads or the heavier weights at the expense of safety, efficacy, and efficiency. And so what does that mean? Like, I write programming for 70 plus people. That means that everybody has to scale, right? Everybody. At some point, we're all going to scale something, right? Even the most advanced and elite athletes, they're going to look at a workout based on whatever's going on in their body. If they're experienced and trained and they know how to practice and train like an athlete, they're going to listen to their body and they're going to see what's on the board and go, today's not the day. I'm going to make a change. Everyone. And so that's kind of the mindset, and that's what I want, not just CrossFit in general, but I want how it's implemented here to be thought of, right? That it is inclusive, right? The only thing, this is the video that I'm about to show you guys that CrossFit just put out. So I'm going to do it, and then we'll do roundtable, we'll chat and ask questions. So I love this video because it kind of like shows exactly what we're talking about.
It all starts with a choice. You don't feel strong. You don't feel ready. Good. You showed up. That's the only starting point. This isn't about perfection. It's about the fight. Failure. It's not a detour. It's the road that progress demands. We don't ask, are you able? We ask, are you willing? Willing to walk through the door, to turn fears into fuel, to keep showing up again and again. The true test has never been ability. It's willingness.
So that was one of the logos that CrossFit had a long time ago, Forging Elite Fitness, and it went away for a little bit, and then I think it's finally coming back. And it, to me, it sort of encapsulates this idea. Like, it is elite fitness. We're forging elite fitness. It is for everyone. It's inclusive. You just need to be willing to do hard things. A couple things. The athletic reset is starting soon. People have asked me what that is. And to me, it's basically all of what we just talked about in a more individualized level, trying to get you to understand like how to implement what we're doing, how to individualize where you're at, and then how to sort of on-ramp yourself into our classes. You'll do CrossFit workouts. We'll go over some of these things that we talked about in the PowerPoint, how to sort of think about it when you walk into class and look at the board, how to interpret what the stimulus is, how to interpret like how to apply that to your own body, to your own sort of skills and abilities. And basically, hopefully, what everyone would get when they come into class and sort of and pay attention at the board, right, and get sort of an idea on how to implement today's training, but just in a way that takes some of the intimidation out, puts you there with me side by side, and we can do it together and kind of walk through it so that, you know, walking into the gym and applying these ideas, learning how to train like an athlete makes a little bit more sense. So that's the athletic resets, 5 weeks. We just go 2 or 3 times a week through my little program that I wrote to basically help you ease your way into our classes. We got Bring a Friend Week. So if you know people, bring them next week. Just come on in and it, you know, sink or swim. Yeah. Jump into the deep end. Yeah. Yeah. And you just got to show up. I mean, of all the things, right? Like, we understand the definitions. Maybe we can sort of like have sort of an assent to like what this means and get some of the terminology, but that means nothing unless you show up, right? You just got to show up and do it. Like the one of the original sort of stories behind this whole CrossFit thing is Greg Glassman was the one of the original founders. He was training for gymnastics. He was a gymnastics guy. He was training for a ring routine or whatever, and he came up with this workout and did the workout, threw up all over himself, and then went and got his friend and said, "You got to come try this." And he was like, "What's all that on your shirt? Don't worry about that. You got to come try this." So like, it's one thing to sort of hear about it and talk about it. You just got to do it. You just got to show up and do it. And the point is like, it is hard. Like, I'm not going to shy away from that. We do hard things, but anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. So that's it. How long was that? Like an hour and a half?
Yeah, I'm almost for an hour.
Okay.
You did pretty good. I was nervous.
Yeah, I will ramble and ramble and ramble. So I apologize. Yeah. No, I mean, me and Andrea will talk for hours and hours and be like, "Oh man, we got to go do something." Yeah.
So land this plane.
Yeah.
I didn't have to say that.
Yeah. No, it's good.
He said it.
I did say it. Any questions? I mean, you guys are kind of new. I know you've done some CrossFit stuff before, but like any just thoughts or questions? Yeah.
I was just thinking it might be good if you explain how a class flow works.
Okay.
When you come in, like what happens?
Yeah. So typical class flow, you'd come in. We'll meet at the board. The workout of the day will be written on the board. We'll talk about a couple things at the board. We'll talk about like what that is. It might be like a whole nother language. Like, I don't know what any of those things are. I had one member come up to me the other day and she was like, "Everything you said at the board, I do not understand." Right. And so it's like I don't know any of those movements. Right. And so like, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about what the workout is. We'll talk about maybe the stimulus. That's kind of a big thing, a big buzzword that we use around here. Like, if I write a workout on the board, there's a goal in mind. Like, what are we trying to achieve? I want you to do this in this amount of time. I want you to do this many rounds of this in this amount of time, right? And so like the stimulus and the goal. Maybe we'll talk about some strategies, like how to get there, and then some scaling options. Like, if you can't do a thruster, if you can't do double unders, you can't do a ring muscle up, or you don't know what any of those things are, right? We'll talk about different scaling options, ways to modify, and then we'll break from the board and do a general warm-up. Purpose of the general warm-up is just to get our heart rate up, go through some general like ranges of motion. It's a good time for the coach to kind of walk around and see like, "Oh, Janine's not squatting very well today. Let me see what's going on with her," right? Let me help her out with some modifications, right? So different things like that to kind of assess how the group is doing. And then after the general warm-up, then we have a specific warm-up, which is very specific to the workout of the day. So like, if there is that thruster, we'll talk about what that is, what the movements are, specifically warm it up. If there's something more technical, we'll work through progressions. So like, for example, if it's like a wall walk where you're, walking up a wall, right? Like, what is that? How do I do that? Yeah, we're going to go through progressions. Good thing about progressions are the modifications are built in. So we get to a point where you're like, this is as far as I'm willing to go. This is what I do in the workout today, right? So within the sort of progressions, we have modifications and scalability. And so that's the time where you get to kind of really piece together what I'm actually doing today and building that sort of like confidence in the workout of the day. Then we'll typically go into what we call a primer or a practice round of the workout. So like the actual workout, like a practice, feel all the movements together. Then we'll take our potty break. Then we come back and then we 3, 2, 1, go. Boom, we hit the workout of the day. And then after that, we'll typically encourage some version of a cool down or some little skill work or something at the end, all within hopefully a 60-minute session. So that's your workout of the day. That's a daily thing. And there's variances a little bit in there sometimes if it's like a strength day or like a heavy Metcon day or something like that, then those will be the variances.
Are we supposed to ask questions now?
Yes.
I actually kind of already know this answer, but for the benefit of you guys. So, intensity. How can I be intense all the time, David? That's
Yeah.
a physical impossibility.
Yeah,
Because
it's
if I'm intense on Monday, then I'm going to
That's
be
right.
dead on Tuesday. So.
I love that. That's a great point. So a couple things. It needs to be relative, right? It needs to be relative to one, your skills, your abilities, how you're feeling that day. How well did you sleep? How much did you train the day before? And the season of life you're in, right? If you're 6 months pregnant, then intensity is going to look a little different, right? Then still winning, still, and they are, because they're competing against themselves, right? And so that's goes to the point, like, intensity is relative. It has to be. I'm not going to compare myself to an elite athlete, and if I do, then I'm setting myself up for failure, right? Right. So like intensity is relative. But then at the same time, the way I program is we try to do phases where we're kind of testing and retesting certain things. So there are days where the emphasis is intensity. Give me everything you got. And then there's days where it's like, pump the brakes. Let's slow it down. Let's do some skill work. Let's not focus so much on getting hit by a truck. Let's focus on learning these movements, breaking them down a little bit more. And then intensity can be different, right? Like adding weight is another sort of way to think about intensity. Like some days are going to be like 100%. Some days are going to be like 70%. So lots of different ways to sort of scale it and look at that spectrum. But we also have to take the individual athlete into account as well. If you're, pardon the taboo, but if it's a high hormonal week for you, right? Yeah. And I mean, it shouldn't be taboo because it's normal functions, and it's like half of our population that deals with like high hormone weeks and seasons, right? And so, but you have to train.
I'm in the low hormone.
Yeah, right. Or if you're in a new chapter, in a new season where like your hormonal changes are different and set, and there's ways to take advantage of that and to train appropriately for those things. Yeah, and so it's relative, to answer your question. Yeah. Anything else?
Come on, people.
What class are y'all coming to?
Cool.
So
Yeah.
did you get that quote from?
I did. I don't have my. Oh, it's on my phone. Marshall sent me a.
I was like, it's a really good review of the.
Yeah, he did. I asked him to give me a little review of like his time with the Athletic Reset.
Oh, okay.
Got a lot going on his Instagram. Just a second. I guess I could search for his name. Is that better?
Yeah, I don't know what you're looking at.
Let me do that. Okay.
Here we go. So yeah, participating in the Athletic Reset program was an excellent experience, thanks to David's exceptional ability to identify my current limitations, set realistic, achievable goals tailored just for me. The program's thoughtful structure not only helped me rebuild a consistent fitness routine and understand the why behind each workout, but also made the process feel approachable, logical, and genuinely fun. This strong foundation made transitioning into regular CrossFit classes seamless and set me up for long-term success as a full-time member. So I thought that was really well said. And he came up to me the other day because we had a workout of the day on the board, and it was like our like pinnacle workout of the week, the open sort of style workout. And he came up to me and he goes, "I know exactly what you're trying to do with this workout." And I was like, tell me what you think. And he told me, I was like, you're exactly right. So like, yeah, he gets it. Like he like following through and sort of understanding like how to apply intensity and how to like scale and tailor the workouts to where you're sort of applying what I'm writing on the board, applying it to yourself, how you're feeling that day, what your skills and abilities are, what your psychological tolerances are, right, and how to apply that right now and get the most bang for your buck. So
Do you say that you recommend coming every day?
yeah, I mean, the goal would essentially be try to get acclimated to that amount of volume to where you can come in every single day. And I purposefully write the program. Well, yeah, not Sundays. I purposefully write the program so that there's enough variability. Because if you are starting and you're like, I'm only going to come 2 or 3 days a week to start and just sort of get my body up to that volume and sort of achieve that adaptation, then I write the programming so that you're not getting the same stuff. So like say it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday that you come, right? Like exactly. It's not going to all be the same. Like our strength days are not always on Mondays, right? So yeah, there is variability in that as well. So like what I typically will tell people that are starting is pick like some sort of consistent time frame that you can try to make it to the gym 2 days, 3 days, whatever, with your ultimate goal being this is going to start to become non-negotiable. I'm coming to the gym every day. I'm getting into this routine of training and making it part of my life, but there has to be that kind of on-ramp process as well. I'll tell people a lot that are new to CrossFit or new to our programming is try to make it seem like it's just a long 1 hour warm-up for the first little bit. Like just make it easy. And I'll say this all the time. Like I want you to leave here today feeling like you could have done more rather than you did too much. Right. And so like, you know, and what I talk about this in the athletic reset all the time, like, you know, scale on the side of caution, right? Just scale on the side of caution. The more and more you do that, right, the more and more your body will start to just become more acclimated and adapt. You'll feel more confident. You'll feel like you could come back and train the next day. You'll have less days where you feel like you got hit by a truck and unable to come back and train. And then the more and more you do that, the more and more you will appreciate getting hit by a truck because you start to learn how to hit back. Yeah, exactly. You start to like it. Yeah.
That's when you know you're in.
You know you're in. Yeah. If you're drinking the Kool-Aid at that point. If you're like, I want to get hit by a truck. Or there's a shirt that says like, that sounds terrible. When do we start? Like, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like I'll say like, it does not get easier. It just gets more comfortable, right? Like you just like, like I feel like I can do this.
You get comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It's all mental game.
Yeah. Because I mean, like if you think about like the scale of how CrossFit kind of scales, and like look at like the CrossFit Games and stuff like that, and how it scales, like the better you get, the harder it is. Like it just gets harder. No, so like, but that's kind of the fun of it, and that's the joy of it. That's why I think there's absolutely no room for boredom. I'm still learning new things. I'm still learning new skills. I've been doing this since 2010, and it's still fun for me. It's still exciting for me, and you know, there's still PRs. You know, so
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question, but I don't know if it's been. I don't know. You said something about a strength. You had other programs or something in
Yep.
some email. Oh, because there you were
Oh,
running
like
for
the new track?
Yeah, the new tracks. Is
Yeah.
that something. Put that out there yet. Okay, but can I ask about?
Yeah. Yeah, so like I'm gonna be starting to write more programming to sort of supplement what we're doing in the gym on our daily like class workouts. So if you want more strength training, if you want more like, you know, engine work or capacity work, or like maybe you're somebody that's training for a competition or training for something specific, you know, there'll be extra stuff in there. There's going to be I'm going to do more. My goal is to write accessory work, strength work, And yeah, absolutely. And like engine sort of conditioning stuff as well.
Well, it's now the accessory work is already on the
Yeah.
bike work, but I think how for a while we were doing like that stamina.
Yeah.
It's similar to that, except David is writing it.
Okay.
It's not part of what CrossFit is putting out there. So I think it's just going to be a little bit more cohesive.
Yeah.
As to what's happening in the gym.
I'm hoping it'll like track well with our class workouts. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
So
just
it's like
by
right now we're doing more open style workouts to prep for the open. So now on like a strength track, you might put more heavy loading.
Right.
If people want to do extra stuff.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, because in class, our strength and our heavy days are not going to be near maximal. We're not going to get super heavy because we're trying to get like that, more anaerobic and like sprinty kind of workouts in. And if we do lift, you'll be lifting tired. So, but yeah, so yeah, like if you're, the open doesn't always land, where you are with your season of life. Like maybe you've got a powerlifting meet or something you want to train for and you want some extra programming. Or maybe you're like, I need some more like joint work. My joints are killing me. I want to do some stuff for that. And yeah.
Well, it's like this is my fourth open, I think, but this is the first one where I feel like I'm actually going into it like ready for whatever they throw at me.
Yeah.
I'm not pregnant or postpartum or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like 4 times, and I'm actually like looking forward to
Yeah.
doing all the things.
Yeah, and I mean that's a fun way to think about how you look at your spectrum of training as well. Like what season of life are you in? Where are you at right now with this? And like that's one of the reasons why I love the open is because it gives us a season. If you're not in some kind of sport, if you're not in anything, it's just like a place marker in the year where I'm just going to test and see where I'm at this point in time in my life. And also for me, I don't program the workouts in the open. So I don't know what they're going to throw at us. So it can either be edifying or not, whether or not the programming that we do here works. Like if, we all are train wrecks during the open, it's like, all right, I need to make some changes in how we train and progress throughout the year. Yeah. It is. It's the ultimate hopper. Like what's going to come out of the hopper on February, whatever it is. Yeah.
10-mile run.
I hope not. Always burpees. Always burpees. Yeah. Cumulatively, yes. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. And hopefully I'll get this on the internet or something and I'll edit it down so that it's not 2 hours long or whatever.
Please put it in double speed.
Double speed it. Yeah. That's true. That's true. They can double speed it. Cool. All right. Well, thank you all for coming.
This was good, by the way. Protein packed salmon on the go.